Hello, this is Dr. Daniel Pozarnsky with Season 2 of Dr. Dan's Health and Business Power Hour. We are here today with Dr. Jarret Patton, and I'm going to actually let him introduce himself because we've learned a good friend of ours has taught us to always introduce yourself so you don't forget anything. So we're going to let Dr. Jarret introduce himself today. And then we're going to talk about quite a few different things that he has going on right now and his story and just have a great conversation. So, Dr. Jarret Patton.
Hey, Dr. Dan. Thanks for having me on the show today. I'm Dr. Jarret Patton, a board-certified pediatrician and best-selling author and award-winning speaker and fellow podcaster of the License to Live show, here with a kind of career coach hat on today, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Dan.
You're so welcome. I'm glad that you're on the show. I'm glad that we're sitting here being able to talk through Zoom. It's just amazing. And having a podcast, I love being able to reach out and talk to people, like-minded individuals and entrepreneurs, and especially people that can help other people, our audience that's listening, and your audience that will listen also. One of the things that I would love to talk about is your License to Live book series. I read the first book. It was a great read. It was an easy read, but there was a lot in it, and I think it goes really well with what's going on in the world right now. So could you tell us a little bit about that, and let's start there.
Absolutely. I'd love to, Dr. Dan. I never growing up ever thought I would be growing up writing books the way I have. And in fact, I didn't even like going to English class, if I'll be honest, when I was young. So any of my English teachers that may be listening right now, well, you told me it was important and you told me to stick with it, even in college as it was there. So writing and reading is very important, and I appreciate what they've done in my life. However, when I was a kid, because I didn't like English class, I liked to ride my bike around the neighborhood. And when I was growing up, the thing that I wanted to do the best was to become a truck driver. And I would ride my bike around and see those big 18-wheelers roll by and said, that's what I'm doing. I went home to tell my mom and my dad, and I said, hey, look, I want to drive a truck when I grow up. And they looked at me and they're like, okay, son, you can be anything you want to be. And if that's what you want to do, then that's great. But it wasn't too long before going through school, I really had the attraction for the sciences. And I said, well, maybe I'll put that truck driving dream on hold. And I ultimately went off to Xavier University of Louisiana, where I studied chemistry, and decided that's the time that I wanted to become a physician, because some people have a lifelong dream of wanting to become a doctor. Others, it kind of comes to them. And sitting all those hours in chemistry labs, putting a drop of this with a drop of that and breathing noxious fumes, I said, this can't be my life. And so I knew I had to get out of here and do something different. So I was able to go to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, completed my medical degree there, and off to train at NYU and Bellevue for pediatrics, which is, what I really love to do. I've always loved children. I have 3 living children of my own. I have a grandchild. So kids have been about me all this time, and I've really loved it.
I can see how you light up just talking about kids and pediatrics and your grandchild specifically. So congratulations.
Yeah, my grandson, he just turned 2 2 days ago, actually, from this recording. So that was a lot of fun. Wow. But let me tell you, things seemed like it was going well in my career. I knew that I wanted to take care of kids and families. I knew that I had some decent leadership skills, and it was very shortly after I started my career that people knew that. So I was asked to lead a clinic and was a medical director in a growing and busier urban clinic in southeastern Pennsylvania. And I thought that I was living my dream, because now I'm getting to use my leadership skills. Now I'm getting to take care of the Jones family and the Rodriguez family and the Smith family and doing all these great things. But my leadership kind of kept growing and growing. So I became division chief, and I rose all the way up to president of the medical staff, where I was overseeing about 1,400 docs in an 8-hospital system. So I said, this is my dream. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I can't wait to just take on these next challenges. But those challenges came much different than I expected. As I sat down and talked with one of the hospital attorneys who I frequently met with at that level of leadership, and he just opened up his laptop and said, Jarret, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're under investigation. As he started showing me pictures from Facebook. Do you know this person? No. Do you know this person? Well, it looks like the same person. No, I don't know this person. And, you know, he ultimately told me that this woman that he was showing me in Facebook had made some Facebook posts saying that I was basically inappropriate with her in the exam room while I was examining her 9-month-old son. The world around me stopped. I couldn't believe what just came out of his mouth.
That's like the worst nightmare of a physician. Like we hear about that all the time. And
lo and behold, I mean, she not only said all of these things that weren't true, she said she's going to the police with them. And lo and behold, she stood with her ground. She went to the police, and next thing I know, I was being placed cold steel handcuffs that were just crushing the bones in my wrist as they put me into a steel box of a paddy wagon to lead me off to jail. So, you know, even though this seems like it happened, you know, overnight, it essentially did in my life, where I'm being arrested and hauled into a criminal court system over these just false allegations. So from that point,
they just came and got you.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So I'm trying to avoid the media. The media is chasing my neighbors around the neighborhood. This, you know, it's a big story because this is one of the leading doctors in the hospital, and now he's being accused of all these things. And my life felt like it was over. I didn't know what to do. And things started dropping like dominoes on me, Dr. Dan. Let me tell you, it started with my medical license. The Board of Medicine showed up and took my license, followed by the DEA. They came and took my Drug Enforcement Agency certification. Then other states followed suit, and all these licenses started to drop. I ultimately lost my job. I lost my seat on the board of trustees at this same hospital system, and I was left with absolutely nothing for 18 months of my life, where I had to just spend all of that time trying to prove my innocence. I'm telling you, Dr. Dan, I had some down days in there, but it took me some time.
I'm sure.
And I realized that there's got to be something else here.
Yeah. So you had basically the biggest obstacle that could possibly happen to a physician happen to you, and you did something great with it.
It did.
How did that come about? Like I would just, as I read your book, and I've heard you speak. Like, Dr. Jarret's an amazing speaker. If you ever get a chance to hear him speak, or if you want to listen to his podcast, definitely listen to his podcast. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, how would I handle that? What would I do? Like, you put your heart and soul and your life into helping people, and then it's gone. Like, I wouldn't know what to do.
I didn't know what to do either.
Yeah. That's it. But you figured it out.
I took some time, and I did. I figured it out. And I said, you know, this is what happened. During that time, I was unemployable. I couldn't do anything. I even went back to study to get my CDL so I could drive trucks, like that childhood dream I talked about. I literally spent hours in the DMV, and I put that in the book for that reason, because I actually spent some hours trying to get this done, because I said, nobody's going to hire me. I have a court case hanging over my head. The only way for me to get out of this is to do something for me. So luckily, my wife, my kids, my family, my friends, my faith, lots of people supported me and just started uplifting me. And that's when I was able to take on to do something different.
And I was reading in the book that's the part that I thought was amazing. Like your family and just came around you and supported you through, and friends through this whole ordeal. Because like as I read that, like I'm putting myself in that situation, or even, you know, with the pandemic now, like I own my own small business. I'm like, and we're working our asses off to like keep everything going. And I'm like, what do I do? What would I do if this doesn't work? What happens? What do I do? And like, I'm like, I'm gonna have to call Dr. Jarret because he knows what to do. But that's actually what you do. That's actually what you do. You're a coach. You're a coach to help people through these things. Like, at least I got a backup plan. At least I got a backup plan.
You know who to call. I hope nothing like that ever happens to you, Dr. Dan, and I hope you remain happy and fulfilled in your career. But that's exactly what caused me to start my own business and ultimately write my first book, License to Live, A Primer to Rebuilding Your Life After Your Career is Shattered.
Right here. And you can get it on drjarret.com, correct?
That's correct. drjarret.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, you name it, you'll be able to find it.
Mm-hmm. And that's just the first part in a series, correct?
Yes. Then just this year, because positivity, as you'll come to know, is something that has always surrounded me. Because if it weren't for the positivity instilled within me, if it weren't for the positive outlook I had, even in those very difficult situations when it seemed almost hopeless to me, I wrote a book of affirmations because I use and practice affirmations on an everyday basis. And I picked some of my favorite ones that I would write and share and License to Live, Daily Affirmations to Rebuild Your Life. And I just launched that earlier in 2020.
Oh, I got to get that one. That's the next one since I got the first one down. But I do the exact same thing. I don't necessarily write affirmations, but I listen to like YouTube motivational things like David Goggins and Joe Rogan, and Jordan Peterson. Like those are all people like that I listen to get myself going through these. Like it's not easy right now. It's tough times for everybody, not just physicians, but every type of small business owner and just the country in general is just in upheaval. And so I love that you write the affirmations down. Is there like a top 5?
Oh man, well
that you can disclose?
Since you asked, I take my copy out since I keep it right next to me, as you see, and those of you listening, I have some of my favorites marked throughout this book because they were just some things that were especially big, like affirmation number 17. My life, experiences, beliefs, and actions inspire and benefit others. My life,
I like that word.
Experiences, beliefs, and actions inspire and benefit others. And that's something that I lived by because I knew that after I did a little bit of research when I had lost all my licenses, I said these types of things happen to physicians, executives, doctors, nurses all the time. And I followed a number of these cases and tried to figure out what happened to people. And people, by large and majority, would just kind of shrivel up and go away because the pressure of all these systems is just too great. And in those cases, people end up going into some very, very tough situations. I mean, I've been literally called to my cell phone, and I give my cell phone out to people all the time. Somebody called me up one day. I didn't even know who they were. A friend of mine gave me your number, Dr. Jarret. Let me tell you the situation I've been in, which was a horrendous situation where he was being alleged a bunch of things was going on in his life. And he said, I can't lie. I am thinking about committing suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I had to stop right there.
That's a tough one to hear.
I had to stop right there. And I said, we're going to talk right now. but I'm not the person you need right now. And we stayed on the phone to develop a safety plan, and we ultimately got him admitted. And he was able to go very well. I was speaking at a conference in his town about a year later, which he was doing very well. He was trying to get his life back together. There were no charges or anything brought against him. It was just a lot of drama. And he actually, we sat down for lunch, and it was a great discussion. And we talked about that day, and he said, I literally saved his life. And that is an extreme version of something that happens, that if you believe in yourself, all of your life experiences, good or bad, they're designed to inspire and improve others. And that's why I like that affirmation more than so many.
I like that one a lot. It's designed to improve others. That's great. Yeah, I can't imagine. I just know how much work it is to be a physician, and then that's your identity, and that's your meaning. That's your life's work. So I can understand how he could feel like that. I could totally understand that. But it turned around within a year, and I think a lot of people, this isn't talked about a lot, but I think it's something that needs to be. I know it's something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be heard, especially the mental health part. I know, recently, remember when we were at the recent event we were at in Atlanta, the Essential Medical Conference, we were talking to Surgeon General Jocelyn Elders. We were talking about that same thing, mental health in the United States. It's just not, it's not done. It's shoved under the rug. But it's people like you that are there to listen, and that's all a lot of people need. Someone to listen, some support, and some direction. And you can do a lot with that. And then finding your faith and then building yourself back up.
Absolutely. And that's what it takes. I mean, it takes determination, perseverance, but whatever you may be facing out there, all of Dr. Dan's listeners, whatever you may be facing, there is another side to that storm you may be facing. I don't want you to be discouraged. I don't want you to think that all hope is lost. Eventually, you'll make it through that storm. And things may look different on the other side, but that's okay, because that means that opportunity is knocking.
That is true. When one door closes, another door opens. But you got to look for it.
Keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes open and look forward instead of backwards. That's what my dad really instilled in me, and some of my parents, or not parents that weren't parents, that instilled in me. You got to keep looking to the future, not the past, and then just building yourself back up again, one step at a time, and getting those people that support you around you. So I'm totally on board with everything that you're saying. What's another one you got there?
Yes.
I want to hear a couple of
those. Oh,
those.
yeah, we're gonna get a couple in here, and I'll explain the significance. You see, I have them all marked up in here. So this is a prosperity one. I am destined to find prosperity in everything I do. I am destined to find prosperity in everything I do. And this one is so much one of my favorite things to think about, is because every event in your life, there's going to be something great to find. And even though I lost my medical licenses, I lost my job, it spent me 18 months to clear my name in a court of law. And we didn't even get to that part yet. But yes, ultimately the jury quickly found that my innocence was already proven, as it should have been, but that's not always how the system works. But yes, they saw my innocence, and I was able to go on my way. And, the licenses, certifications, everything started coming back even before that criminal trial took place. However, even in that time, I realized that this is an opportunity. And it may be one of my lowest days. It may be one of my lowest parts. But I said, if you don't believe this, then who will? Nobody else will believe it if you don't. So that's why I knew I am destined to find prosperity in everything I do.
So even in the lowest times, how do you find the prosperity? What's the thing that you look at? Is there a certain way that you can navigate yourself to that?
Absolutely.
Write it
Absolutely. A lot of times people try to judge their worth by material things. Maybe it's a house, maybe it's a car, maybe it's a yacht. I don't know. But a lot of times people judge themselves by that. And I'm going to tell you, Dr. Dan, and I'm going to tell each one of your listeners that you're a trillionaire. You have trillions of cells in your body that are floating all around, and you should be happy to have each and every one of those, because for most people, it's just the basic things from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet that you can actually be grateful given the health that you have, even if you don't have the best health, even if you're struggling with something, or maybe you have some cancer cells that shouldn't be in your body. There are a lot of things to be thankful for. And just being thankful in that moment is something that can help you through those good times and the bad.
Trillionaire. I like that. I love that one, actually. Trillionaire. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you for that one. So that's two. Should we do top 3 or top 5?
All right, we'll keep going. Hey, I'm loving this.
I like this too.
Let's move on through the middle. My work or business makes a profound difference in this world. My work or business makes a profound business in the world. And each of these, I give an exercise, because sometimes people think that affirmations are just lies that you tell to yourself. And the beauty of affirmations is that you actually have to use them to start to see these things. And so in my book, I actually use it as a guided journal so that you can sit there and think about the affirmation, but if you think about your work or business and how it makes a profound difference in this world, that's something great. But even if you're not making a difference, that means you are not doing the right thing. And I tell them to list one thing that you made a difference in yesterday and list one thing that you will do today to make a difference. And then you have to set goals amongst yourself to do something that's going to make a difference, because some people are just sitting there in their job and they're like, I'm just collecting a paycheck because I can't even stand what I do. But that job is designed not only for you to fulfill it, but there's going to be some person or something that is dependent on that product line somewhere in there. So even if you think you're not necessarily in the right place, the work that you are doing is going to make a difference in someone's life. Definitely.
I know as a physician, we're definitely making a difference every day, but you can start taking that for granted because it's just the same, you're doing the same thing. So you get so used to it. You don't see the difference all the time because you get clouded by your own inner looking, like how you look at yourself. I just learned this in school. I'm just doing this thing, but you're helping people out of pain. You're helping them to be able to function in their lives again. Helping their children, which is the most important thing in the world to most people that have children. And then that the big thing about pediatrics is you're making a difference in a child's life, and they have so much potential to use that. That's what's amazing about kids.
And that's the thing that attracted me to pediatrics. The kids' ability, I mean, you're talking about generations of influence right now, because if a kid comes in and sees me as a doctor and we have this bond and we bond with the family, and then they come to know me as their doc, and they come in and we see them over years and years, and they may be a baby, they're growing up to be a toddler, then next thing you know, they're a teenager. And then they may even leave my practice. But guess what? A few years later, they're bringing their kids back in to see me. And then this process starts all over. And it's an incredible impact and privilege that we have as physicians, as healthcare providers, as people who take care or serve in any kind of service industry. I don't care what kind of industry. I mean, our profession is deemed as noble because of what we do, but there's a lot of people in the service industry that are essential, and they're things that we grow to love and to need, which is why everybody has an important place on this world.
And I think that we've found that out by having some of the things that people don't deem as essential taken away from us. in the last year. And everybody's like, well, I can't go to my restaurant where I hung out with my friends. I can't even go to a place to gather with my friends. Like,
right.
That's taken such a psychological toll on the whole nation. And then you see like different, like what happens when people don't get that. Like there's upheaval and violence and different things like that. And
absolutely.
There's so many things happening that like I'm not even sure what's going to happen still, you know. It's scary when your essential needs get taken away just of being with other people, like friends and family. And for me, in my practice, it's like my patients' kids couldn't hang out with their friends, you know, for the last 6-8 months, and because their parents were terrified, and that takes a huge effect on those kids for maybe forever because they're in their developmental stages, and then the parents are stressed because they're not used to that, and they're teaching, and so I think everybody could look out and see how getting those essential needs taken away, like how it affects all of us as a whole. I think you're right on with that.
And you are too, because when we look at the pandemic, it's affected so many people in so many different ways. And even how they approach their everyday lives or their everyday jobs, particularly with doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. We're kind of in the middle of this fire, and I've been getting calls from all over the country that a lot of people are finding out that maybe some of these bigger businesses are rearing their ugly head in that underbelly that sometimes, especially as a doctor, you may be sheltered from. Oh, there's always a need for a doctor here. There's always a need for a doctor here. Well, okay, you may be a dermatologist today, but we need you to go see some sick patients in the ICU that have COVID today. Nobody's coming in for those skin concerns anymore. So people are being forced to do things that they're not even trained for. And so then, of course, they're miserable. And they're like, well, how can this happen? And I never saw this kind of abuse before. And people are looking for an out. And it's not only in healthcare, it's in all these industries. People are really wondering what is going on. They don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's been a snowball effect too. Like people thought it was just, well, where I'm from, it started in March and you saw businesses close. But I said right from the beginning, like, you're going to see the snowball. You're going to see more businesses close throughout the year and even in the next year. And maybe this is going to last for a long time and people aren't thinking about that, and I don't know how they can't, and none of our leaders aren't even thinking about that. It doesn't seem like to me, and that's scary.
It's a short term. We have a lot of short term problems, but you're right. It's hard to estimate what the long term problems are going to be because they're going to be lingering for years and years and years. I agree with you.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, there's going to be all this positive change. Yeah, there will be some positive change, but I think there's going to be a lot of painful learning curves. We're going to lose things too every time something changes. We're going to lose some industries, and there's going to be new industries that pop up. And the way that I see it, like right now, is just like the human-to-human contact has decreased so much, and people are relying on like Zoom, especially like for medical visits and things like that. Like I want to be there with like my doctor, or if you're going to like a therapist or something, you don't want to be over Zoom. You want to be like there where you can like feel the energy. I think that's really helpful for people, and they can't do that. In some places they can do it now, but other places they still can't. And every state is different, and it's just human to human like interaction is primal thing, and it's just being thrown to the wayside. And hopefully that ends soon, but nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows. It's something that I've missed, and in thinking about the virtual world and what it's become. I mean, I speak frequently on stages, and as I saw all these stages canceling in the first half of the year for me, I said, wow, this is going to be very different. And then I said, well, it's going to take a pivot, and it's going to take something else and to think of something else. And actually, I wasn't planning on hosting my first License to Live conference until 2021. But I said, this is the perfect opportunity while people are sitting around. They may need some inspiration. And I actually hosted my own License to Live the conference earlier this year, and it ended up being a tremendous success. You can go to licensetolive.com, licensetolive.com, to just check out the details of the conference. But I brought in a bunch of speakers, and we just sat there for the entire day in Zoom, just trying to have some motivation and some energy, and just getting people right to say, hey, look, I know this has been a long haul going through this. Life is just not as we knew it, even a year ago, but let's make something out of it, and let's do something that's going to help each other and try to pull through it.
Totally. I've actually had the same idea we didn't start our podcast until COVID hit. I have Mark, or my intern. He's been wanting to do a podcast for the longest time, and I was kind of like iffy about it. I wasn't sure, and then that hit, and we were just slow. I was like, let's do the podcast. Let's get on there, and let's get local businesses. We'll talk to doctors, everybody I know across the country, and it's actually been really great. I really love it because you really get to connect with like people like yourself that are on the same wavelength. And I think that's and thought leaders, influencers, people that have been out and about around the country, and that's what people need to hear from instead of watching the news, because the news, just everything on the news is negative. The media is just making all of this worse, in my opinion. But I love listening to the podcast is the new media, is what I always tell everybody. Because you get authentic conversation, real ideas. It's not manufactured. We can sit here and have a conversation about, like how you got through your struggle, and you wrote a book, and you had a virtual conference. Like, that's amazing. It's just so amazing. Just to know that there's people out there like yourself, like helping in that way. That's awesome, and I applaud you for that.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Jarret.
Podcasting to me has also been something that's just changed the way I looked at podcasts. I mean, if you asked me probably 3 years ago, maybe 4, I didn't even know what a podcast was. But I started the License to Live podcast in 2018, not really knowing what I was doing or what I was going to do with it. But totally, through that process, I've met and interviewed so many different people, from filmmakers to TV personalities to Super Bowl champions, all of these things, just to say, look, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to tell. And you're not there suffering alone. You're not designed to sit here on this earth and suffer by yourself and let things come to you. But when adversity strikes, then you have to move on. You have to find a way to get beyond it. And that's what I like to highlight. A lot of stories like that, because tough times happen to people in all different types of forms. But if you're able to find something or do something, you're going to be able to make it, even if you're the only one that believes it.
I love that. That's the key. Like, you have to be able to believe in yourself to bring. Well, one of my favorite quotes is, and I don't know if I made it up, but I have
might be the first one in your book. Come on, Dr. Dan.
It might be the first one in my book, but there's nothing more powerful than an idea put into action. A lot of people have ideas, but a lot of them do not take action. But if you can take action on your ideas and you can see them come to fruition, and that gives you a lot of inner confidence, a lot of inner strength. And then, I steal one from your book. How did I help someone there? How did you word it?
Yeah.
What kind of prosperity did I bring?
Yes. Yes, exactly. My work or business makes a profound difference in this world.
how did I make a difference in this world? Well, I had Dr. Jarret on my podcast, and like all of my listeners heard how he persevered and the different steps that he took. And even it doesn't have to be huge, life-changing things, but then little minute things like we each have 1 trillion cells and we're still here today. We can do something with that. I love that. That's great. So great.
And that's what we do. And that's what you're doing, because Dr. Dan, you want to make a difference, and you're making a difference by sharing your voice and spreading your voice with others by allowing me to tell a piece of my story.
Yeah, and your story is great. And let's get back to your story. We kind of got off track. So we're about to the middle of it. Like you're getting through it. Let's rewind a little bit, and I want to see how you turned everything around. I know you wrote the book.
Yes.
But what else did you do? How did you get the book out there? How did you?
It was something that I had never done before in my life. Up into this point, I've done lots of mentorships. I've worked with lots of great mentors over my time, but I was pretty much down and out. I mean, even, hey, Jarret, you want your old job back? Not after that. I think I'm just going to figure something else out with my life, and that's exactly what I did. But I didn't know how to do it. I said, I'm going to start a business. I have lots of healthcare experience. I have lots of executive leadership experience. I'm going to start a business. And I built myself a website. I continue to attend conferences that I would often speak at, or just get people and think I'm getting new leads. And I couldn't realize why I couldn't make any business. I'd have these great conversations with people. They're like, yeah, and we need to continue this, and maybe I could use you in my place. And then there would be nothing. And part of the reason is I just did not know how to run a small business. I've helped run a $6 billion business, but I didn't know how to run a small business. And that's when I had to seek out coaching. And that's when I found the powerful impact of coaching on what it has done for me back then and what it continues to do in my life now. So yes, I am a coach. I'm a career coach. I help people try to find a new career, or if they're in a rough time in the middle of a storm and they need to get that exit strategy, that's what I specialize in. That's what I try to help people do, and just find something where they can be happy and be fulfilled again in their own life. And if I didn't have the coaching to enhance me as a speaker, or enhance me as a business person, or enhance any of the other skills that are within, it's like anything else, you're not developing them. And coaching and hiring really a series of coaches myself is what started that process. Then my business started going right. Then that website that looked like it came from a 1980s Atari that I built and I was proud of, then that went away, because that's not going to get you any business if you look like that. So it's things like that really got me in there. And that's when I started to write the book, License to Live, to give sound strategies on how to get yourself through a tough situation. And it just went on from there. I just kept wanting to do things in pediatrics. So I host an internet show in pediatrics, and wrote another book series called Whose Badass Kids Are Those? And it's a parent's guide to better behavior.
I want to hear about that a little bit, because I know a lot of parents are struggling right now because their kids are probably driving them nuts because they can't get out with their friends and run around. And well, that's another big thing just in our society. The kids are sitting at home playing video games, so they don't get the interaction, and their interaction is virtual, not in a positive way. Like, I would say this is a positive virtual experience, but like playing a video game where you're talking to like a bunch of different kids online trying to kill things is probably not a positive experience for most children. and I think a lot of parents just don't know what to do, and like that just helps them get a little break. But the science behind watching TV, or I don't know exactly behind video games, but it actually shuts the brain down. Like, if you look at fMRIs when they do that with kids that are watching TV or video games, like the regions of the brain starts shutting down, which again, they're in their developmental stages, is not what you want. You want that lit up. You want that developing and using that potential. And so, like, what kind of vignettes do you have from that book?
Yeah, well, I tell you,
probably a million, but like, give us a couple teasers.
Well, like I'll tell you this. Speaking of video games, it's tough because kids will turn on YouTube, they'll turn on video games, and you're right, they'll turn off their brain. And I had to work with my youngest son with the start of virtual school for him, and tell him he had to kind of retrain his brain to pay attention now if he's staring at a screen, because he was so used to not paying attention when he's on a screen and just doing something reflexive or something that's just kind of, occupying his mind. I'm like, no, your teachers are teaching you things now, and you're going to be responsible for these things. And so you're not going to be able to pick them up if you think you're just watching YouTube all day and there's nothing that you have to be responsible for. So that's one small example of something that kids are going through right now, which can be pretty tough.
Yeah, and tough for their parents too.
Oh, yes.
I got patients who have their teenage kids teaching their younger kids how the schoolwork, and I'm just like, wow. And then I know there's kids out there that probably aren't getting any, like their parents probably aren't doing anything with them because they don't know how to use the internet and computers, or might not even care. And like, school was the one place that they could go where they have structure, and it's sad that what's happening now because they don't get that, and then that leads to other things that are negative, or can be totally negative in their life. So I'm guessing you probably hit on that a little bit in your book too, probably, or the series at least.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I imagine
we talk a number of things, and we break it. The first book we broke up by age groups and thinking about the things that you can do or see by the newborn that first year, maybe the terrible 2s, 3s, and hopefully not 4s. But then the school age kids, then the tweens and teens, and then even the young adults, because there's parenting strategies even around taking care of young adult kids. So we really broke that up to just give a great overview. You're absolutely right. It's theirs.
Yeah. All the stages are different. They're
all different.
That's great. That's amazing that you're putting that out there for people. So can they get both series on, so it'd be licensed2live.com?
Yeah.
And then what's the children's book?
Yeah, so you can get any of the books on drjarret.com, or if you're interested in the pediatric, you can go to whosbadasskids.com. You'll have all the Who's Badass Kid books, the T-shirts, the other merch that's there. It's all there. So you guys go check that out today.
I like those T-shirts. That's great. And kids that actually wear those, I bet too.
Right.
That's the problem. Getting them to wear the T-shirts. All right, you guys. So we're getting close to the. Are we getting close to? We're getting close to the end of our hour here. Is there anything new in the works that you might be working on?
Well, we just wrapped
all
up
the other things.
Yeah, well, it's always something with me, Dr. Dan, and we just wrapped up the last filming of a movie called Us versus the Plant, which is a docufilm about medical marijuana. And the film production company wanted to cast a real life doctor, and I said, in this as their narrator, and ultimately I went for the role, and they're like, yep, we want you as the guy. And I said, well, I do have I am a pediatrician, I'm not a research scientist, but I have tried to update myself on cannabis and a lot of the things going on in the cannabis industry now. And we wrapped that film up just before the pandemic. I mean, I was back and forth to LA so many times in the month of February, and I even had to tend to a medical emergency. That's a whole nother story. We'll have to talk about that on the next time I'm on your show.
Yeah, next time, totally, for sure.
But we had to wrap up the film. And we had all of this great launch scheduled. We had an opening in Denver and LA and Atlanta and Philadelphia, where I am, and all these great cities, New York, you name it. And of course, all that came to a screeching halt. So we actually did a couple of virtual VIP and red carpet events where, I'd show up, I'd have my tuxedo on, and I'd be in my studio like I am with you today. But then, after that, it's like, all right, we're planning the next phase for a more hard launch coming in the fall as theaters start to open up. So that's something to look for, and you can go to usversustheplant.com.
usversustheplant.com. I'm glad you brought that up. That's one thing that I'm trying to bring to my practice right now. We live in North Dakota. Like, there's a medical marijuana is legal, but the big hospital systems don't do it. So you have to do it in a small independent group. I'm not sure why they don't do it there. I'm sure it has something to do with insurance or some sort of reimbursement of some sort. But I can do whatever I want. It's a nice small practice.
That's right.
So we're as long as we do it by the book, because I'm sure we'll be a target. But it has so many beneficial things that it can do for people like cancer, anxiety, like anorexia. There's a laundry list, and it just has this negative stigma around it. And it's the pharmaceutical industry also that you're fighting against, because then they're not going to be taking all their anti-inflammatory drugs and different things like that. But I really believe that can help a lot of people in the future. So that's one thing that we're really working on in our practice here too. So
I think it's a smart move. Yeah, a lot of big hospitals are not doing it. They're kind of staying away, but they realize the rush was going to be somewhere else, so they might put one or two people in, a huge hospital chain that may be able to do that, but it really leaves the opportunity for independent docs like yourself to just kind of get out there and say, look, I've educated myself, I know what this is about, and I'm here to help you. If this is a medicine that you want to take, why should I get in your way if I'm not going to stand in your way to go buy some ibuprofen at the store?
Yeah, totally. Because that's a lot harder on you in the long run than like medical marijuana. And it's not like that it's easy to get, especially in North Dakota. But it's a tool. It's another tool that you can help to live a better life. So we're pushing to do that here in the next couple. So I'm glad you brought that up. Also, that I can't wait to see that documentary when it comes out. Maybe we'll have to have a show about that.
Yeah, we could do a whole show. I'll have the producer come on. We'll have a good time, because there are a lot of great stories, that happened in the filming of that. So when you're ready to do a medical marijuana show, just give me a call. We'll get that set up.
All right, we'll definitely do that. All right, well, we're getting to the end of our time here. Let's see. I want to ask you a question. So what's the greatest thing that you've learned from your experience since practicing medicine and going through and living this journey, this new journey, and starting another one and helping people, which it feels to me like it just lights you up. Like, what's the biggest thing that takeaway that you've had?
I mean, it's just such a blessing to be here and be alive on this earth. And if you just capture every single day, like it's maybe your last, or you just want to make the most of that day, it's something that you have to do. And that's one of the things I learned. I learned to be even a better father, a better husband, a better brother, a better cousin, a better uncle. You name it, through this experience. I became a better kickball pitcher to the neighborhood kids, because I was the only dad who was around after school, for crying out loud. So there are so many good things that came out of any experience. And I challenge all of you out there to find something in your life that you think is not right, something that you think you could do better, something that maybe isn't even your fault, and it's just a bad, unlucky situation. But know that there will be an end. And with patience and persistence, you will get through, and nobody's going to be able to stop you.
I love that. Thank you, Dr. Jarret Patton, for coming on the show and telling us about License to Live, It was what's the child's book?
Whose badass kids are those?
Whose badass kids are those? Everybody wants their badass kids. And the documentary was
Us Versus the Plant.
Us Versus the Plant. So everybody look out for those. Some of those are out. We'll put everything in our show notes, and we'll get it out to you in the next week or so, and start using that stuff as soon as possible and making this world a better place.
Thanks,
Dr. Jarret.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Anytime you guys want to hang out with me on LinkedIn or any social media. You can find me at Dr. Jarret. Spell out the word doctor, J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T.
1 T. All right, on LinkedIn. So there's multiple ways to find Dr. Jarret. If you just Google his name into Google, I found out today, like you'll get like about 3 pages of information that you can check out. And totally listen to his podcast because he's got some awesome guests on there. And listen to this one a couple times. There's a lot of takeaways here. So again, thank you so much, Jarret, for coming on the show today. We're very excited.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. Thanks, Dr. Dan.
You're totally welcome. We appreciate it very, very much.